Welcome to the Win Weekender, a comprehensive recap of the major story making the news this past week. This week on the Win Weekender, the secession debate, a call being made for the secession clause to be removed from the St. Kitts Nevis Constitution, and what division leaders think of the suggestion. Here's Win TV's Ken Richards with the details.
The secession debate is getting a new lease on life.
Because of the inbuilt separatism in the Constitution and the too often call for secession, loudly and or quietly, we miss the goal. We are cutting off our noses and spoiling our faces.
And the truth is, we have seen no effort at all from this Douglas-led administration to change anything. And so it does not lie, in my view, for he or his acolytes to come to the public talking about constitutional reform or the removal of Clause 113 or any such.
As we have been reporting, Queen's Counsel Dr. Henry Browne argues that talk of secession may impact on foreign investors because it can give a sense that there is some instability in the Federation.
The Nevis electorate and the Assembly can unilaterally dismember the Federation by a majority, two-thirds vote for secession of Nevis from St. Christopher and Nevis. The time has come for St. Christopher and Nevis as a whole to have a new look at this Section 113 clause. It is a recipe for disaster and political instability and economic downfall.
However, Nevis Deputy Premier Mark Brantley describes the clause as the manifestation of a struggle that the people of Nevis have had.
It is important to the people of Nevis, insofar as it formed the basis of negotiations done on their behalf by the then NRP administration, led by Dr. Simon Daniel, our first Nevisian national hero, and that the clause itself is a manifestation of a struggle that the people of Nevis had dating back before my own time. I feel that if there's any talk of removing the clause from the Constitution, then one would have to take that issue, a very important issue, to the people.
We asked former Premier Joseph Parry, the opposition leader in Nevis, whether the secession clause should be removed from the Constitution.
I don't agree. If you understand the historical context of that clause, when there was a lot of confusion and controversy between St. Kitts and Nevis, you will understand why it is so important to the people of Nevis that they have that protective clause there. What I would say is, if anybody advocates that the clause be removed, they would have to have a proper overhaul of the Constitution to ensure that the people of Nevis don't feel threatened at any time by the greater body on the island of St. Kitts. You know, we have a unitary state. We don't really have a federation. And we need to visit the Nevis government and the federal government and try to have something that's more balanced and more reasonable. I know Kittitians feel that Nevisians have to bite at the cherry in terms of having a government in Nevis and one in St. Kitts. But the government in Nevis is really a glorified local council. If we were to look at it seriously, I know we have certain powers in there in terms of economic development, so on, but it's basically a glorified local council. Any consideration at all about removal of that clause, we'll have to revisit the whole Constitution.
Dr. Browne is suggesting, though, that talk of secession creates instability and foreign investors could be affected by this. He's advancing that as a key reason for the clause being removed in his view.
Well, he would say that his assumption has some rationale behind it because if you have the continual talk of secession like you used to have in Quebec or in Scotland, of course it will create instability. But you don't even have to have the clause to have that instability because I don't think there's any such clause in Scotland or in Quebec. I think what is needed is the kind of arrangement that will make people satisfied on a long-term basis, that their rights will not be infringed or that they have self-determination of one sort or the other, and therefore can abide in a federation or abide in a constitutional arrangement which gives them the opportunities they wish to advance.
Now, you are known to have supported secession at some stage in the past. How important is that clause for you?
I can't say in my adult life, I don't know if it is fair to say that I have supported secession. As a student, I used to support it very strongly back in the 60s and in the 70s. When I was faced with the reality of government in 1983, I had great difficulty with it.
But the question is, how important is that clause for you and for Nevis and Nevisians
well,
in general?
It is important. I mean, that clause gave me peace of mind, and that clause gave me the assurance that a situation that had developed in 1983 in terms of having your own government and making certain decisions for yourself could not be reversed without the people of Nevis determining that. And it continues to have that importance and significance to me, and maybe even so to many Nevisians.
So how much of a negotiating measure is it in terms of Nevis ensuring that it gets a fair deal?
Well, simply that you don't look at the clause alone. You have to look at all the arrangements for Nevis together as one body. And the arrangements allow the Premier of Nevis to meet with the Prime Minister and negotiate a number of things. There are certain arrangements which are entrenched in the Constitution, and if they are not respected, there is even provision for the Nevis Island government to take the federal government to court. The arrangements are there, and they all put together give us that kind of assurance that we can run our affairs in Nevis and negotiate from time to time in our interest. For instance, education and health. From a federal point of view, the policies are made in St. Kitts, and the administration of education and health, that's done on Nevis. But there's provision for those to be added to the number of areas where Nevisians determine policy. It is just a matter of having a total majority in the federal parliament.
Are there any conditions on which you think it would be right for Nevis to take the big step of seceding? What would precipitate that in your view, you think?
You're asking me if there are any conditions that I think they should secede?
What would make it right?
It will have to be, I will answer in a negative fashion. It will have to be some terribly extreme negative cause that can force you to do that. I mean, as you look at St. Kitts and Nevis, two small islands, two small countries, are very vulnerable, have difficulty in attaining sustainability economically, plus the other matters of the people being so closely united socially and as far as family ties are concerned. I don't know how much sense it will make to press for this session now or any time. You look at early in the 90s when Nevis was doing extremely well, Kittians came over to work. Right now the economy in St. Kitts is far stronger than the economy in Nevis. Divisions are going over to St. Kitts to work. You look at other Caribbean economies which are bigger than ours, and you see the many challenges they're faced with. You look at the rest of the world and you see the economic challenges they're faced with. If you make yourself into a smaller entity, it becomes even more difficult for you to survive on your own. These are matters that we really have to give serious consideration to. It's always okay to be sentimental and emotional, but under the scrutiny of daylight, you really understand that people need to be moving closer together rather than moving apart.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
WIN FM's mission is to contribute meaningfully to the information, awareness, and the development of our nation and the region through the building of educated and informed communities. WIN FM faces the issues squarely, without shying away from controversy, while striving continuously to provide balanced, responsible reporting.
Better music, better talk, better radio. 98.9 WIN FM.
Welcome back. We continue taking a look at the secession debate with Ken Richards.
For an Anguilla perspective, we spoke to former Finance Minister Victor Banks.
I think that the clause was put there for a particular reason. I think that in the very early days when the two members of the Federation were putting the things together, they felt that it was important to achieve federal government, that the people of Nevis the citizens of Nevis who had some concerns about the relationship would have some comfort in knowing that should they decide to make that determination in future, it would be available for them. So in terms of the people of St. Kitts Nevis, it is the people of Nevis in particular, it's a very good clause to have in the constitutional arrangements. However, it does make for Nevis to be in a position where it can exert that constitutional right whenever it sees fit without reference to the St. Kitts government. So this may be a bone of contention for them in St. Kitts. However, it was put there for a reason, and the only person or the only group of citizens who should want to remove that would have to be the people of Nevis.
Anguilla opted to go on its own or to go back to Britain.
Yeah, it opted to secede, because they were not happy with the relationship with the central government. And I think that might have been one of the reasons why that clause of comfort was placed in the St. Kitts Nevis Constitution.
The relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis was also referenced by the President of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Damian Hobson, when he addressed the national consultation on the economy at the Marriott Hotel on Thursday. He focused in part on the resources gleaned from the Citizenship by Investment program and advanced a suggestion on how funds from the Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation, SIDF, should be used to benefit both St. Kitts and Nevis.
The Chamber is at one with the IMF on the way forward for the SIDF and CBI. Greater accountability and transparency are recommended. The last published accounts of the SIDF were in 2011. A timelier sharing of these accounts could lead to more confidence and support for the program. We do recognize that disbursements have been placed in some good programs, but there are concerns about the manner in which the funds are being spent generally, with huge sums going into consumables. There is a view that the SIDF resources ought to serve as a rainy day fund and for productive sector support geared towards long-term development. We believe that the differently structured SIDF should have greater requirements for transparency, reporting to Parliament and the Governor-General. In this new thrust, we advocate for the establishment of what would become a sovereign fund under the management of an independent council not directed by any individual political directorate. Both governments at the federal and local levels should receive annual contribution as grants for priority areas as defined by the Nevis Island Administration and the federal government in Bastille.
This has been the Win Weekender. On behalf of the Win TV News team, I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.